$800 a month, handed over without fail, just for the right to sleep in a childhood room that no longer felt like hers. The carpet still had the faded stains from when she spilled cranberry juice at 15. The closet door still creaked open on its own at night. Nothing had changed, except now it cost her nearly a third of her paycheck. And still, her mother called her a burden. "Emily's still with me," her mother would tell relatives with a sigh loud enough to echo. "She just doesn't seem motivated. Works some silly job. I keep telling her to get her life together." They would nod, pity her, offer shallow comments. "At least she's not on the streets. It's tough out there. Kids these days, huh?" Emily wasn't a kid. She was 28. She worked long hours as a dental assistant, stood on her feet 10 hours a day, cleaned up after patients who threw up or cried or bled. She walked a mile to the bus every morning. She kept her head down. She didn't drink. She didn't party. She paid rent. But none of that counted when you lived under your mother's roof. She stopped attending family dinners when the comments became unbearable. "Still no boyfriend? You ever gonna move out? I bet your mother's tired of picking up after you." Her mother never corrected them. Sometimes she even added, "Tell me about it." Emily would sit there, shrunken behind a plate of underseasoned food, nodding quietly, swallowing the burn that rose in her throat. She'd stay just long enough to wash dishes, then slip out early, say she had work in the morning. No one noticed when she stopped coming altogether. At work, no one really saw her either. Dr. Clark only addressed her when handing over tools. Patients never remembered her name. Her coworkers were friendly but not close. She was the kind of person you'd forget in a waiting room. At night, Emily sat in her room, lights dim, watching YouTube videos on her cracked phone. She didn't have a desk, so she used an old shoebox to hold her charger. Her only comfort was the quiet bag of chips she snuck in after dinner, Cool Ranch, always Cool Ranch. She'd eat them slowly in the dark, savoring the crunch and pretending she was somewhere else. Then came the Wednesday night that broke her. She was late getting home, traffic, then a patient had a panic attack mid-cleaning. She had stayed late, soothing her, wiping tears, holding a hand no one else wanted to touch. When she walked through the front door, her mother was already pacing. "Where the hell were you?" her mother snapped. "I had to stay late." Always some excuse. "You live here, Emily. You don't just come and go like it's a hotel." Emily dropped her bag. "I pay rent." Her mother scoffed. $800 doesn't make you independent. You're still just mooching off me." The words hit sharper than usual. Emily felt them twist in her chest. Something in her expression must have changed, because her mother stepped closer, voice rising. "Don't give me that look. You've been nothing but dead weight since the day you moved back in. What kind of adult lives in their mother's house at your age? You think paying a few bills makes you a grown-up?" Emily didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just nodded once, turned upstairs, and quietly began packing a duffel bag. She took only what she needed: clothes, toiletries, the old photograph of her father before he passed. She didn't leave a note. At midnight, she left. It was drizzling. Her sneakers soaked through as she waited for the last bus toward nowhere specific. She texted Marlene, a woman from work who had once offered a spare couch, in case of emergency. Marlene replied instantly, "Come over." Front doors unlocked. Emily arrived just after 1. Marlene handed her a blanket, didn't ask questions, and went back to bed. The apartment smelled like baby wipes and instant coffee. Emily lay on the couch, stiff but safe, and stared at the ceiling until morning came. She stayed there a week. During the day, she went to work as usual. No one noticed anything different. At night, she helped Marlene wash dishes, read bedtime stories to her toddler, and sat quietly on the edge of the couch watching TV with the sound low. Marlene never pried. She just let Emily be. On the 7th day, Emily found a studio. It was tiny, the kind of place most people would frown at, above a laundromat, one window, a buzzing fridge, but it was hers. She moved in with 2 suitcases and a borrowed pot. Her mother didn't call. But her aunt did. "We heard you left your mother's house like a thief in the night," she said. "She's devastated. She says you betrayed her." Emily didn't respond. She just hung up, then muted the entire family chat. That night, she made instant noodles on a single burner stove and ate them on the floor. She had no table, no chair, no fork, just a spoon she bought from a thrift store. She played old music from her phone and stared out the window at the laundromat's flickering neon sign. It wasn't much. But for the first time in years, no one was yelling. No one was calling her a burden. And that was something. She started waking up before her alarm. At first it was the noise from the laundromat downstairs, the thump of dryers, the clink of coins, the occasional argument in Spanish between 2 early risers. But even on Sundays, when the building fell into silence, Emily's body would stir with the sun. It was like her bones had absorbed years of tension and still didn't know how to rest. Her studio remained half empty. No couch. No TV. Just a mattress on the floor, a folding chair, and a chipped mug she drank everything from coffee, water, even soup. Still, it felt cleaner than her mother's house ever did. Not cleaner in the literal sense, but cleaner in spirit. No shame tracked in with her shoes. No cold looks curled up in corners. Work, however, remained the same. Dr. Clark still walked in 10 minutes late, holding a Starbucks he never offered to share. The front desk still messed up appointment times, leading to overbooked afternoons and cranky patients. Emily kept her head down, her hands steady, her voice calm. She had perfected a smile that looked real enough to disarm people but didn't cost her too much to maintain. Some days she felt invisible. Other days, she preferred it that way. On Wednesdays, she walked 3 extra blocks after work to get groceries. The local market had a discount bin near closing, and she learned to plan meals based on whatever was cheapest that week: bruised apples, dented cans of soup, torn bags of rice. She grew used to calculating things in cents. Once, she splurged on a tiny houseplant, an awkward little succulent in a cracked pot. She placed it on the windowsill and named it Grace. Every morning she greeted it with a soft, "Still alive, huh?" and it felt like a conversation. On Fridays, she allowed herself a soda. Cherry Pepsi. She drank it slowly, always from the chipped mug, savoring every sweet sip as if it were a reward. It was the one ritual that hadn't changed since she left. Then came the message from her mother. Not a call. Not even a voicemail. Just a long, cold text. "I guess I should have expected this from you. You've always been ungrateful. After everything I sacrificed. After raising you alone. You just leave and pretend I'm the villain. You are not welcome back." Emily read it 3 times. She didn't cry. She didn't reply. She just placed her phone face down and walked to the corner store for toilet paper. That night, as she folded laundry in her studio, one of the dryers downstairs had broken again. She thought about how strange it was to be disowned by someone you still paid rent to, even if only in memory. Marlene checked in occasionally. Need anything? Still okay? Emily always said she was fine. And mostly, she was. But loneliness had a way of sneaking in, even when you'd invited silence in with open arms. One Tuesday, a mother brought her child in for an emergency appointment. The boy had chipped his tooth at daycare and was wailing like the world was ending. Dr. Clark looked annoyed, like he always did around children. Emily stepped in, crouched low, whispered jokes, showed him the suction tool by pretending it could suck up monsters. Within minutes, he calmed down. When they left, the mother touched Emily's arm. "Thank you. You were the only one who seemed to care." Emily froze. She nodded and whispered, "You're welcome," but the words felt unfamiliar, like she hadn't said anything kind or been thanked in so long that her mouth didn't quite know how to shape them. Later that evening, she sat by her window, legs tucked under her, sipping tea from the mug. Across the street, a man was closing up a barber shop. He turned off the lights one by one, like extinguishing candles. It was comforting to watch someone else's ending to their day. Sometimes, she still wondered if she had done the right thing. If leaving made her selfish. If cutting off her family made her cruel. The guilt came in waves, especially at night, when the streetlight flickered and she could hear the buzz of silence too clearly. But then she'd remember the look in her mother's eyes, sharp and hollow, when she said, "You've been nothing but dead weight." And the silence didn't feel so empty anymore. It felt like space. Like breathing room. One evening, she got a message from her cousin Jenna. "Hey. I don't know the whole story. But I just wanted to say I think you're brave. Aunt Liz can be a lot. I'm sorry for how people treated you." Emily stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. She didn't type anything back. Just let the words sit there, glowing softly in the dark. That weekend, she bought herself a second mug. It was blue, with a chipped handle and the words, "Take it one day at a time," written in cursive. She placed it next to the other one and smiled. It wasn't a family heirloom. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't expensive. But it was hers. And that was enough. Winter came earlier than expected that year. The wind bit through her coat by mid-November, and the radiators in her studio hissed but never really warmed the room. Emily started sleeping in socks and wearing 2 sweaters to bed. She bought a cheap space heater and placed it by her feet while she ate dinner cross-legged on the floor. The noise from the laundromat dulled during the colder months, but the loneliness sharpened. Sometimes she missed the noise of her mother's house, not the words, but the sounds of life. Clinking pans. The hum of the dishwasher. Footsteps in the hallway. Here, there was only her. One night, as she peeled a boiled egg over the sink, the power flickered. Then it cut out entirely. She sat in the dark, holding half an egg, and let herself laugh. It was bitter, then soft. She lit a candle, one she had been saving for some moment that never arrived, and let the scent of vanilla fill the space. She remembered a time when she was 10, when her father was still alive. There was a storm that knocked out the power back then too. Her father lit candles all over the house and told ghost stories with a flashlight under his chin. Emily had been scared, but also safe, tucked under a blanket, her mother beside her for once not criticizing but listening. She hadn't thought of that night in years. She whispered, "Thanks for that memory," to the empty room. It wasn't quite a prayer, but it felt close. That Sunday, she walked to the park. The air was thin and sharp. She carried a book she didn't read, just sat on a bench and watched people, families laughing, couples holding hands, children chasing pigeons. She felt both outside of it and oddly at peace. A man sat beside her eventually, older, with kind eyes. He didn't say anything, just nodded. After a while, he said, "You look like someone who got away." She turned. "Got away?" He smiled faintly. "From something that hurt. You still carry it, though." Emily didn't know why, but her eyes burned. She didn't respond. He didn't wait for one. He stood after a while and walked away, leaving her alone with that sentence. That night, she wrote it down on a sticky note, "You look like someone who got away." She stuck it on her fridge. December passed quietly. Her coworkers threw a small holiday party in the break room, cheap cookies, paper cups of punch. Marlene hugged her a little longer than usual. No one asked about her family. No one brought up home. She was grateful. She mailed no cards. Received none. But when the clock struck midnight on New Year's Eve, she stood by her window, watching fireworks explode in the distance. Alone, yes. But not lost. She whispered, "Happy New Year, Em," to herself. 1 week later, a letter came. No return address. The handwriting looked familiar, shaky, pressed too hard into the page. She hesitated before opening it. "I know you hate me. Maybe you should. But I'm not writing to make peace. I just wanted to say, I hope you're okay. I still think about you every night." No signature. Just the smudge of what could have been a tear or a drop of coffee. Emily placed it inside her second mug, the blue one with the broken handle. She didn't cry. Didn't feel much at all. But for the first time, she didn't feel anger either. Spring came late. But it came. She replaced the broken mug with a new one, green, this time. She kept the blue one anyway. There was something about the crack in it she didn't want to throw away. One Saturday, she found herself humming while cleaning. A melody her mother used to hum while folding laundry. She paused, then kept going. It didn't feel like surrender. Just memory. A neighbor knocked one afternoon, a young woman with a baby strapped to her chest. "Sorry to bother," she said. "I locked myself out. Can I use your phone?" Emily let her in. Offered her tea. Held the baby for a moment while the woman made her call. The baby stared at her with curious eyes. Emily smiled, and for once, the smile wasn't something she had to work for. That night, she thought, maybe being alone isn't the same as being unloved. Maybe solitude was never the enemy, it was the silence that used to come with shame. Now, the silence felt like space. She still had hard days. There were nights she questioned everything. But the difference was, now, no one answered back with cruelty. Just the flicker of candlelight. The hum of the city outside her window. The quiet resilience in her own breath. Maybe one day she'd reconnect with someone in her family. Maybe not. Maybe healing didn't always come with closure. Maybe it was found in the ordinary, the chipped mugs, the warm socks, the tiny plant named Grace still clinging to life. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.